Hello and welcome to another episode of the International Agenda presented by the BJ Show. As always, I'm your host, Aidan Barry. Let's get straight into it. There's been a lot happening with sport all over the world these last couple of weeks, and we're going to get straight into today's show with some Champions League. The Champions League quarterfinals have been completed for another year, and let's get into the winners and losers and the matchups for the quarterfinals. The first game that we had in the round of 16, Barcelona versus Benfica. Barcelona winning that tie 4-1 on aggregate. Barcelona very strong favourites going into the tie and take the win rather easily over Benfica, who I thought might have put up a little bit more of a fight, but what can be said is Barcelona doing Barcelona things. We know how good Barcelona can be, they are, and they will be when they need to be, and that is what gets them over Benfica. Second tie we had was Inter Milan versus Feyenoord. Inter going over 4-1 in this tie with a 2-1 win at home. And Inter had this in the bag from the away leg. They really did. They had 2-0 on the board in the away leg. They clean it up at home. They go through. No problems there. Now we have the biggest shocker of the round of 16, which is PSG holding Liverpool goalless at Anfield Road and then winning in a penalty shootout. So PSG advance, beating Liverpool 1-1 and 4-1 on penalties. And this is a shocker because when the draw came out for Liverpool, this was one of the games that I think they wanted to avoid, and unfortunately they didn't. They had to play it, and they couldn't put up a goal at home. And that's the big shocking thing for Liverpool. They put out their best 11, and they still couldn't put up a goal at home. They've been so dominant at Anfield Road the last 5-6 years, and to see this is a real wake-up call and a real shock to the system for them. But PSG winners there, great play by them, getting the goal, keeping it tidy at their end, getting the clean sheet, and then comprehensively winning the penalties, 4 straight to only 1 Liverpool penalty scored in the penalties post-added time. Next tie was the old German tie of Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich. And this was all Bayern. It was 3-0 already after the first leg. Bayern came in clean up 2-0 over Leverkusen, easily go through in the end. Next was one of the ties that I picked out as being one of the more interesting ties, which was Los Lille versus Borussia Dortmund. And Borussia Dortmund won the tie 2-3 away from home in that second leg, as they won 1 goal for Lille, 2 for them in Lille in France. So Dortmund getting through there 2-3, winning the away leg by a score of 2-1. Aston Villa, probably the biggest shock of any of the teams to be in this stage of the Champions League, and remembering that they didn't even have to do the preliminary knockout round. They went straight through with their league phase results. They drew an easy draw in the first round. They drew Club Brugge of Belgium. It was 3-1 after the first leg, and Villa really had it in the bag going home. Just had to keep it tidy, keep it a clean sheet, and put a few more away, and that's exactly what they did. They win 3-0 here at Villa Park, and Aston Villa could be an outsider to run in this competition as we go forward. Next tie that we had was another one that was already done after the first leg, with Arsenal up 7-1 over PSV in that first leg of the tie. Arsenal go home, don't really have to put up too much of a fight. 2-0, take it 9-3, and Arsenal cruise through in advance. Then we have the old Spanish tie. Well, the old Madrid tie. Atletico Madrid versus Real. And in the second leg, Atletico won 1-0, so the tie ended 2-2. However, in penalties, it was Madrid winning 4-2, and they go through to that quarterfinals with that victory on penalties over Atletico. We will now talk about and give my predictions for the Champions League quarterfinals. The first tie that we have is Bayern versus Inter. This is a very very interesting tie. And I don't think Bayern are going to have it as cruise as they did against Leverkusen and Inter, a strong team. They've been up top of Europe for a substantial period of time themselves, representing the Italian league in lieu of AC Milan and Juventus. They are the Italian league's last hope in this Champions League. I think they're going to put up a good fight. They're going to be, so the first leg will be at the Allianz in Bayern before we go back to Milan for the second. So if Inter can hold Bayern to one goal, so 2-1, 3-2, something along those lines, I think Inter should have a good chance in the second leg. But Bayern, I just think they're just a class above. It's an interesting tie, but I think Bayern will just get that advantage in the third leg. In the first leg, they'll probably win that first leg 3-1 and have a relatively easy game coming back for the second leg. The second tie is my favourite tie of this round. It's Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Arsenal, they are injured, but they are never out of a contest. That is their way of playing football. Injuries or not, they will be in a contest. They're playing Real, who are at their absolute top of their form right now. Arsenal will have home at the Emirates in the first leg before going back to the Bernabeu in the second. But, if Arsenal can get a lead, and they need to have a 2-goal lead, if not more, and hope for a clean sheet as well, just to give themselves confidence going into the second leg. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Real are just too good. I think Real are going to make it a draw. They're going to either win or draw the first leg. I'm thinking 1-1 or 2-1 for Real in the first leg, and then cruise back to the Bernabeu and put up a number on Arsenal as they're slowly running out of players due to injury. The third tie we have for the quarterfinal is Barcelona versus Borussia Dortmund, with Barcelona at home in the first leg, Dortmund home in the second. Barca should win this quite easily. There is a golfing class between these two sides. Dortmund, I think, will be sticky customers. They will put up a fight, but I just think Barcelona are too good. I see Barcelona win the tie, probably 5-6-0 on aggregate. So I'm going to say 5.5 is my line score there. So 5.5. I'll say 5.5 to 2 is the line score there in that tie. We'll move to the final tie as we have PSG versus Aston Villa, and I think unfortunately for Villa fans out there, I think this is a very, very easy tie for the French side. PSG are a number above. They're a class above. They took out Liverpool the previous round. Why not take out another English team here? Villa, give them credit. They've got this far. They've done an excellent effort getting this far, but I think PSG are miles above Aston Villa, and, this could get quite ugly. I'm seeing PSG putting up a 4 spot in the home leg and not even bothering to put up their front 11 in the second leg as they go to Villa Park. So probably they will win that tie. They'll win that tie 6-1. That's it for my predictions on the Champions League quarterfinals. Now, before we go any further in today's episode, I'm going to say we're not going to deep dive into the NBA and the NHL today because we'll do that in the next episode as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. That they'll continue as they are for now, but once we start to see how the playoffs are going to take shape, I'm going to start to put together some brackets and see how the matchups are going to work out. I also just want to say that March Madness this year is kicking off in a couple of weeks, actually next week. So it's Champs Week this week in college basketball. So once I have the full bracket for the March Madness tournament, I'll come back in and go through the whole bracket, game by game in that first round, tell you who's in that first four out, final four in position, and then discuss the breakdown of how I see the tournament coming out for the year and try and break the bracket. Also, on the NHL front, as I said, we're not going to deep dive into the NHL today, but I am going to keep tabs on Alexander Ovechkin's chase of Wayne Gretzky's goal record. As soon as he breaks that, if he does break that during this year, I will come on here and tell everyone that it has happened and that Alexander Ovechkin now has that goal record. For him, the Caps are looking very strong, though. They're trying to win him out of the chip while he's chasing that record, and they're still leading their division. They've got a large sum of points and a decent gap, but as I said, we'll come back to the NHL later on in the month and build on the playoff brackets as they start to unfold in the NBA and the NHL. In that space, Major League Baseball also starts, so I'll keep a heads up of key series going across the season, results played in those series, and series upcoming that are key to the divisional races in the MLB. So that is what is to come in the next couple of weeks on the international agenda. Now, let's get back into today's agenda with some motorsport, where we are going to preview the Formula One and Moto GP seasons. Moto GP, they've already had a race done in Thailand, but we're going to look at my predictions for those seasons as a whole, who I think is going to win the Drivers' Championships, who I think is going to win the Constructors' Championships in those tournaments. So let's get straight into it. We're going to start with some Moto GP, and I will discuss who I think is going to win the Riders, Teams, and Constructors titles for the upcoming season. For the Riders title, I'm going to say is going to go to Marc Marquez. He's just a fantastic rider. He's had a couple of down years the last couple of years. And I think it's time he really bounced back and showed his worth, coming back up to the top of that senior class, winning another MotoGP title. I think it's definitely on the cards. He's won the first race in Thailand, and that's always a good start. He's won a good start, good first race, good win. Though he'll go forward, and he will probably. I don't think he's going to cruise to victory, but there's going to be some challenges. I expect Bagnaia is going to challenge, maybe. Also some riders from other manufacturers as well. Maybe even Alex Marquez, Morbidelli. Those are the main ones I'm looking at as being the contenders, the same as last year. But even Jorge Martin could contend. But really, I think Marc Marquez is going to be a cut above everyone this year. He will be back, and he will be ready to take a MotoGP Riders title. In the Constructors, I think there's only one winner, Ducati. They have so many bikes out in the senior class that they just rack up numbers, and they're going to just take points. And it's going to be hard to beat them with how many bikes they have on the track. Just getting above them any week is going to be very difficult for the KTMs and the Hondas and the Yamahas of the world. But anything can happen. But as it stands, I'd say Ducati miles ahead, going to definitely win the Constructors, and same for the team. So the Ducati Lenovo team, or Team Ducati, as they're well known as, will be the one to win the team's championship quite comfortably. They've got the 63 to 93 riders. So those 63 and the 93 riders are riders. Let's have a look here. Rider 63 is Francesco Bagnaia. Rider 93, Marc Marquez. That's a very formidable front two, and that is going to be why they go and win the team's championship in MotoGP. Now we go on to Formula One, where it's only a drivers and a constructors championship. Even the works teams are involved in that constructors championship. There's no suppliers championship in Formula One. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say that Red Bull are going to win the drivers. Max is going to win the drivers for Red Bull. However, with that being said, I feel like McLaren or Ferrari will be the one to win the constructors. I think just at the moment, we don't know how good Lawson is going to be for Red Bull. We don't know how good Antonelli is going to be for Mercedes. Lewis has got a proven record. Charles Leclerc is consistent. Lando's a front runner. Piastri's a front runner. McLaren are back again. So there's realistically 4 teams who can win it. I say Red Bull could be in a chance if Lawson provides a much stronger position to Max, constantly taking podiums. But as it stands, and that's definitely a questionable statement at this point, not knowing what he's able to produce in that top team. I think it's a safer bet to assume that we go with McLaren or Ferrari. Just before we finish today, there was one other motorsport event that was held in the last couple of weeks, and that was the Race of Champions, the Rock, which is a national drivers' championship where it's an all-stars competition where the best drivers from all across the world represent their countries, represent their categories, and put up their country's flag for one weekend of racing. It was held in Sydney this year, and it was won by French ever-present rock specialist, rally specialist, Sebastien Loeb, and that is rock number 5 for him to go along with his multiple rally titles. He is one of the greatest rally drivers to ever be. He is one of the greatest drivers to not go on asphalt. He is probably the greatest driver to never go on asphalt at any time. Coming in second was Australia's own Chaz Mossert representing supercars. So well done to both those guys on making the final of the Rock. But that is all we have time for today on this week's episode of the International Agenda. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Between now and then, there will be the March Madness special, so that will be next week when Champs Weeks is over. So it will not be a 2-week break. We will have that Champs Week special coming up. And of course, I will update you on a Veterans Gold Chase as that happens as well. But as for now, regular programming will resume every 2 weeks with that March Madness special coming up next week. Thank you. From Aidan Barry, this has been the International Agenda, signing off.